Hi, it's Corrine. Thanks so much for stopping by. Today I'm sharing 4 finished cards with you. I have just been on a roll making Christmas cards. I love it so much. I pulled out one of my all-time favorites. It's the Spellbinders Truckin' Through the Seasons die set. And I decided to do a little bit of hot glimmer foil. So I pulled out my Spellbinders Hot Foil Glimmer system and my Sizzix Big Shot machine. And I'm using a snowfall background Better Press plate. You can use your Better Press plates to foil, so it gives you so many more options. So I'm using this really pretty iridescent pink hot foil that I had in my stash, and I decided to hot foil on some craft cardstock. I'm allowing that to heat up. Once my machine tells me it's ready, I'm slowly running it through my Big Shot machine. And I'm going to try and give you a look up close of this. It just gives such a pretty look in the background because it's very light. But when the light hits it, it's so pretty. And it's just got that little bit of iridescent kind of pink look to it. So pretty. So I did a couple of those. I also, when I pull out my hot foil machine and my Better Press plates and my Big Shot machine, I like to do several cards at once, even if I save them for a future project, which I did do a couple that I didn't use in this project. So here are the 3 that I'm using. I will add another card to this as well. And I just cut out a bunch of die cuts, not sure exactly what I was going to do. Of course, like I had said, I'm using the Truckin' Through the Seasons, so I knew that was going to be my focal point of each card, but I wasn't sure what sentiments, I wasn't sure what colors I was going to do. So I always cut out a bunch because I will just save whatever's left over and use them. Matter of fact, some of these that you see there are from a previous time that I've cut them out. I pulled out all the ones that I had saved as well. So I'm just kind of laying out the different cards, trying to figure out which colors I wanted to use. I'm using pretty much, I think, all Concord and Ninth cardstock. And I like to double up my die cuts. So in this case, I think I did, I did 2 red trucks and 2 blue trucks, but I only had enough cut out for 1 blue truck. So I went back and cut another one. You could cut a different, like say just white card or a truck to go underneath it, but I like to use the same color cardstock. That way it blends and you don't see it. So here I'm just showing you, I sandwiched a piece of acetate in between that window of each truck. I adhere it down, give it a chance to dry, and then I'm gluing on my second layer. So that way it's doubled up. And I do, with most of these, like to cut out another little scrap piece of the same color to back behind it so I could put in this little detail piece of the truck. Some of the trucks I change my mind and I go back and change the color of this detail piece. Like this one I was using craft cardstock or wheat specifically by Concord and Ninth. I went ahead and changed that to a lighter blue. The red I went and changed to white. So I do change my mind throughout. I also pulled out some Spellbinders Classic Squares, cut out a few small presents, and then I'm using one of my favorite bow dies, which is a Stampin' Up! Balloon is what it's called. It's a birthday die set. That's one of my favorite little bow dies, so I use that. I kind of mix and matched a lot of dies. I also pulled out Spellbinders Yuletide Ride, and that's where some of those little presents and bows come from. I cut a lot of them out with that silver cardstock. That is a basil cardstock. I need to get more of that. It's a matte silver cardstock. So pretty. And like I do with my Concord and Ninth, I save every little scrap of that so I can use it. I also use that to cut out the tailgate on all the cars. And I do like to double those up as well. Those I don't necessarily feel I have to double with both the matte cardstock. I do on 2 of them, and then I think the other 2 I used a white cardstock because you couldn't see it behind it. So I'm just gluing on those present pieces using magnets to kind of hold them in place. And when I'm gluing really fine die cuts like this, I like to add my glue on, press it off on a piece of scrap paper. That way it gets rid of a lot of the excess glue and it doesn't squeeze out all over the place. And as you can see here, I decided to go with white for the tailgate. And on this blue one, I use a lighter blue. I do end up making 4 cards. I was just having so much fun making them. I decided to make another one. And I made 2 cards that are A6 sized cards, which is 4.5 by 6 1/4, but I actually took the height down slightly to 5 3/4. So I have 2 finished card bases that are 5 3/4 by 4.5. And I have 2 cards that are standard A2 sized cards, but all of them have been put on Hammermill 100-pound white cardstock. And for 3 of them, I used that cranberry colored Concord and Ninth cardstock for my card front. You could make your entire card base out of that, but that's a lot of paper used. I save a lot of paper by using a white card base and just adding color to the top. So I'm just kind of going through assembly line style. I added the tires just from some black cardstock. And now I'm just kind of setting out all the pieces to decide what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted one truck with presents in the back, and then I knew I wanted some trees in the back of the trucks too. For the trees that you'll see me use, I pulled out one of my favorite dies this year. It's a scrapbook.com. It's called Layered Fir Tree, and I love it. I love to mix and match artichoke and avocado cardstock from Concord and Ninth because they coordinate so well together, and it just kind of gives it a look, a little bit look of dimension. So you'll see me pull those out here in a minute. This Truckin' Through the Seasons has so many little die cuts to it. I love the details. I love the little tail lights. So I kind of mix and match, just see what I like on it, try different things. Some of them, as you'll see here, I did white tail lights. I thought that went well on that lakefront cardstock. And then others I did silver, the matte silver to match the tail pipe, I guess it would be, the tailgate. Not the tailgate, you know, the tail. So I just added those on, put some magnets. I'm working on a Glassboard Studios glass mat. I do have a discount code in the description box. Right now they're running a Black Friday, depending on when you're watching this video. They're running a Black Friday sale where you get 20% off. And this is great to work on because it doesn't matter if glue seeps out, which I did have glue kind of everywhere. I had ink everywhere, and it just cleans up. I use a microfiber cloth and a little bit of alcohol, and it cleans up super easy. You can also use a baby wipe. So here I put together the trees that come in the Truckin' Through the Seasons. It's a very branchy tree. I added quite a bit of them, which I end up not using, but I wanted to show you the process because it is a really pretty tree. But in the meantime, I was using that fir tree on something else and loved it. So here you can see I used my Cricut scraper because it was glued to my glass mat. I used my Cricut scraper after I had let it dry and just peeled that up and cleaned it off with some alcohol. Added a star to the top. These little the red pieces, I don't know what they are, but I used them as like it was like ribbon hanging down from the top of the tree. And I did one tree that was a little more sparse and the other one that was a little fuller, just to give it 2 different looks. I went ahead and glued those into the truck, after I had done this, I had let them sit overnight. And when I came back the next day, I just didn't like them as much. So that's why I decided to change them out. And I was able to peel them up. You'll see here in a moment, I was able to peel them up, and I'll just save those for a future project. Pulling out my little guillotine Tim Holtz trimmer. I'm adding some details to the top of those little square dies. Again, those are Spellbinders classic squares. I cut out, just different color combinations, not sure which I was going to use. So I'll glue those on, set them either under a paperweight or a magnet, let them dry. Adding that bow that I had mentioned, that's my favorite bow from Stampin' Up. So as I'm kind of gluing everything in, I'm super happy with how the presents look in there. I knew I wanted the presents with the trees. Then I also cut out the For You in different color combinations. I wasn't sure which I was going to like, so I just tested out several till I found what looked best to me. They have the front piece that you can cut out from one color, and then the back piece. I also did a little wreath for one of them, and I wanted to do a little tone on tone with that red cardstock, so I just dragged the edge over the cranberry cardstock over the cranberry ink, just to give it a little bit of definition to make it stand out from the back of the truck, the tailgate of the truck. This is the one where I love this little wreath hanging off. So I did do 2 layers of that wreath, again, just to give it a little bit of stability, a little bit of dimension. And for the little berries, I used the lakefront cardstock. I love that combination with the green. And then I added a silver bow to the front. I also pulled out some candy canes that I have from the Yuletide Ride die set from Spellbinders. Put those together and just kind of tuck them around. So here are the card bases. 2 of them, like I said, are a little bit larger. I'm just kind of setting everything on it to see how I wanted it. I wasn't sure if I wanted portrait or landscape. I went back and made another blue card base using lakefront and peacock. The peacock is the base of the truck, and then the lakefront is the inlay. And I just put that on the back so it shows through for that detail. But I did add acetate to the other trucks, but this one I added a piece of vellum. It just gives it a little bit softer look. Placing a magnet on that, giving that a chance to dry. Here's that layered fir tree by scrapbook.com. Like I said, I used it on another project in the meantime, and I loved it so much that when I came back and looked at it with these trucks, I decided to use it. I cut a bunch out using artichoke and avocado. And they're just super easy to layer together. You can also cut the base pieces and add them to the bottom to give it a fuller tree, if that makes sense. But I'm alternating the colors. And you can make a small tree, you can make a tall tree, whatever your choice is. So for these, I don't believe that I put the base on because I didn't think you would see them. I don't think that I do that. I know I cut the base out from nutmeg cardstock. Maybe I put it on there not thinking. I don't know. We'll see. But I do add stars to the top. I used silver stars for all my trees. And I think from that I used a different die set. I was just pulling out all different dies. I really love just kind of digging through my stash and using what I have, different ones. And a lot of die sets, especially Christmas dies, have little stars in them. So here's where I changed my mind, because I tested it out on that 4th card that I was going to make. And I decided I liked that tree so much better. So I just used my little Cricut spatula, pulled it out, and luckily it came out nice. So I'll set those aside. I do have those in my scraps, so I'll keep those for something else in the future so they don't go to waste. So now I'm making 2 more of those fir trees, alternating the colors, adding the stars back on the top. And here's one of the finished trucks. That tree looks just so cute to me. So I'm adding just a small piece of foam tape behind it just to keep it looking a little dimensional. And again, I'm just kind of pulling out some glued die cuts that I had to see what I liked. I added a few candy canes in a couple of them. I did the reverse where I had the white on top of the red and then the red on top of the white to give them just a slightly different look. I am also going through and adding some white gel pen detail to some of the die cuts. Now I've decided on my card bases. I pulled out the matching cranberry red cardstock. I also pulled out lakefront cardstock, and I will cut all of them with a smaller rectangle die just so I can save some of the cardstock in the middle, which you'll see what I'm talking about in a moment. So I'm using a die set that has snowflakes in the background, and I am dry embossing that. I do like to take a little bit of clean water to it. I used an embossing pad and ran it through my Sizzix die cut machine, and that is on pebble cardstock, so it's just very light in the background. Here's where I was saying I used a smaller frame to cut out the middle, and I'll save most of those middles to use on the inside of the cards. If I don't use them on the inside of the cards, I put them back in my scrap. This way, no one will see it, being that we will cover those up. I do like to add a piece of cheaper white cardstock in the center of those, just so there's no sagging. And I'm going to put those on hammermill cardstock for my card bases. I'm using my scoreboard and a little bit of Beacon Fabri-Tac to kind of give me that edge, to push them up to the edge and line them up, because it is a little flimsier once you cut that center out. So here's the smaller rectangle. I use that same rectangle to cut out a piece of cheap white cardstock that I get from Walmart. I add that right into the center, and that way it's not sagging. So I'll use my magnets to hold my card base in place. Gives me a chance to glue down my card front. I'll use some paper weights, let those dry. And now I'm finishing each card. So for this card, I wanted to add a tree next to the car. So I'm adding that same layered fir tree. And like I mentioned earlier, you can cut some of those pieces in half and kind of separate them. It'll give you a little bit fuller tree. This one I did add the trunk of the tree using nutmeg, and I am adding a little bit of foam tape underneath each one, gluing the top but leaving the bottom of the tree with the foam tape so it has such nice dimension. I glued on that silver bow to the top of that tree, and I love the little present with candy cane. I went back, added a little bit of glue under each just to make sure it was really adhered down. So now I pulled out a bunch of sentiments. I stamped all of these. This is a Tailored Expressions Christmas Sentiments in simple strips die. I heat embossed some of them with some white fine detail powder. Others I stamped on craft with cranberry cardstock and just kind of held up which one I like the best. So for this one I have a Holly Jolly Christmas on red, and I did double all of them. In some cases I even tripled them with the same banner die behind it just to give it a little bit of dimension. So again, I just laid them on the cards to see which I was happy with. The ones that I don't use, I throw in the sleeve of the stamp set for next Christmas or for more cards this year. So for that Happy Holidays, that's a Waffle Flowers Wonderful Christmas. It's a Stampin' Die. On the card on the left, using the Pebble, I stamped that out on Pebble cardstock, so it kind of blended in, but I used that cranberry color for the Happy Holidays. And now I'm going through and adding some Nuvo Crystal Drops in Simply White. I am tapping the back. They're supposed to self-level, and they do a pretty good job of it. Finishing off the inside of all my cards, I'm using the Christina Werner Concord and Ninth Joyful stamp set. So I added in black ink Joyful Holiday Wishes. And I do that for all 4 cards. 3 of them I use the cranberry cardstock, and then the 4th card I use the lakefront cardstock, which coordinates with the front of the card. So here's a look at all the finished cards. I love how they turned out. I love the little shimmer in the background. And this, year after year, is one of my favorite die sets, the Truckin Through the Seasons. So I hope you've enjoyed the process of it. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the description box. And please consider subscribing to my channel, giving this video a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.